All right, let's talk about one of nature's most powerful and unpredictable forces, a landslide. Imagine you're out in the wild, navigating a steep, muddy hillside. You think the ground is solid, something you can rely on. But then, without much warning, a huge section of that earth, rock, soil, mud, and everything on it, gives way. It starts to move downhill. That, in its simplest form, is a landslide. It's the movement of a mass of rock, debris, or earth down a slope. This isn't just a bit of dirt rolling away. We're talking about tons of material, moving with incredible force and speed. It's a raw display of gravity's power, turning what was once a stable landscape into a destructive moving river of earth. Understanding landslides is crucial for survival, whether you're an adventurer in the backcountry or living in a community nestled near mountains. These events are not just random acts of destruction. They are a fundamental process of how our planet shapes itself. Mountains are constantly being built up by tectonic forces and worn down by erosion. Landslides are a dramatic, fast-paced part of that erosion. They can happen in any country, on any continent, from the highest Himalayan peaks to the coastal cliffs of California. They remind us that the ground we stand on is not always as permanent as it seems. It's a dynamic, ever-changing surface that demands our respect and understanding. The sheer scale of these events is what makes them so formidable. A small slide might only involve a truckload of soil slipping onto a road, a nuisance but manageable. But a major landslide can involve millions of cubic meters of material. It can travel for miles, reaching speeds of over 100 miles per hour. It can bury entire towns, dam rivers, and completely reshape the landscape in a matter of minutes. This isn't just a force of nature, it's a force that can rewrite the map. Being aware of the potential for a landslide is the first step in staying safe. It's about reading the signs, understanding the environment, and always having a plan. So why is it so important to get our heads around this? Because knowledge is power. When you understand what a landslide is, you start to see the world differently. You notice the steepness of a slope, the type of soil, the way water flows after a heavy rain. This knowledge can save your life. It can help communities build in safer places and prepare for when the worst happens. In the wild, it's about choosing a safe campsite, recognizing unstable ground, and knowing when to turn back. Nature doesn't play by our rules. We have to learn its rules and adapt to survive. A landslide is a brutal but effective teacher. Every landslide has a distinct anatomy, a set of features that tell its story. At the very top, you have the crown, the area where the material first broke away from the stable ground. It often leaves behind a steep, curved scar on the hillside, known as the main scarp. This is the starting line of the disaster. From there, the material travels down the track or path of the slide. This path is often stripped bare of vegetation, scoured down to the bedrock by the immense force of the moving debris. It's a clear and brutal trail, showing exactly where the landslide has been. It's like a wound on the face of the mountain, a raw and exposed gash. The main body of the landslide is the mass of material itself. It can be a jumble of rock, soil, trees, and anything else it picked up along the way. Depending on the type of slide, this material can be relatively intact, or it can be a chaotic, churning mess. At the very bottom, the landslide comes to rest, forming the toe or zone of accumulation. This is where all the debris piles up. This pile can be enormous, creating a natural dam if it blocks a river, or burying everything in its path. Understanding these parts helps scientists and rescue teams figure out how big the slide was, where it came from, and what might happen next. But what pulls the trigger? What turns a stable slope into a destructive force? The most common trigger by far is water. Intense rainfall, rapid snowmelt, or a sudden rise in groundwater levels can saturate the soil. Think of it like a sponge. A dry sponge is light and holds its shape, but a soaked sponge is heavy and weak. When soil gets saturated, the water fills the tiny spaces between the particles. This increases the weight of the entire slope and reduces the friction that holds the soil grains together. It's a deadly combination that can push a slope past its breaking point, causing it to fail catastrophically. Other natural triggers can be just as devastating. Earthquakes are a major culprit. The intense shaking from a tremor can literally jiggle the ground loose, triggering thousands of landslides in a matter of seconds. We see this time and time again in mountainous, seismically active regions. Volcanic eruptions can also set off massive slides. The heat can melt snow and ice, creating fast-moving mud flows called lahars. And sometimes, it's simply the slow, relentless process of erosion. Rivers undercutting the base of a slope or waves battering a coastal cliff can gradually weaken the land until it can no longer support its own weight. It's a constant battle between stability and gravity. Not all landslides are the same. They come in different forms, each with its own character and level of danger. The simplest type is a fall. This is exactly what it sounds like: rocks or other debris breaking loose from a steep cliff or slope and falling through the air. You often see this along road cuts or steep mountain faces. The material then collects at the bottom in a pile called talus. While it might seem minor, a rockfall can be deadly for a climber, a hiker, or a car passing below. It's all about being in the wrong place at the wrong time. This is pure, direct gravity at work. Then you have slides. In this type, a section of earth or rock slips downhill along a distinct surface or plane of weakness. Think of a block of wood sliding down a ramp. There are two main kinds. A rotational slide moves along a curved, spoon-shaped surface, causing the top of the block to tilt backward. A translational slide is when the mass moves along a flat, planar surface, like a layer of weak rock or clay. These slides can move slowly over days or weeks, or they can fail suddenly. They often leave behind that classic curved scarp at the crown, a telltale sign of instability. Next up are flows, and these are often the most destructive. Flows are when the material becomes saturated with water and moves like a thick, viscous fluid. They are essentially rivers of mud, rock, and debris. A mud flow is composed of finer material, like sand and silt, while a debris flow contains larger rocks and boulders. These flows can travel at incredible speeds down channels and valleys, picking up more material and growing in size as they go. They have immense power, capable of destroying bridges, buildings, and anything else in their path. They are incredibly difficult to outrun. Finally, we have a couple of other types to be aware of. A topple is when a large block of rock pivots or tilts forward and then falls. This is common in areas with vertical columns of rock that have been undercut at the base. And then there's creep, the sneakiest of them all. Creep is the extremely slow, almost imperceptible downhill movement of soil or rock. You can't see it happening in real time, but you can see its effects over years. Tilted trees, fence posts, and retaining walls. It's a sign that the ground is unstable and could be a precursor to a more rapid and dangerous type of landslide. Nature has a full arsenal of ways to trigger a landslide. As we've seen, water is the #1 natural cause. A monsoon season in Southeast Asia, or a hurricane hitting Central America, can dump an incredible amount of rain in a short period. This saturates the ground, turning stable hillsides into ticking time bombs. The water adds weight and lubricates potential failure planes deep within the soil and rock. Likewise, rapid snowmelt in the spring can have the same effect, releasing huge volumes of water into the soil profile. It's a natural cycle, but one that can have devastating consequences when the conditions are just right. Geological forces are another primary natural driver. An earthquake doesn't need to be massive to cause widespread landslides. The violent shaking can dislodge already unstable material. In places like Nepal, Japan, or the west coast of the Americas, major earthquakes are often followed by a secondary wave of disaster from landslides. Volcanic activity is another powerful cause. The eruption itself can shake the ground, but the real danger often comes from lahars. These are volcanic mud flows created when hot ash and gas melt snow and glaciers on the volcano's slopes, creating a fast-moving slurry of mud and rock that floods down river valleys. But we can't just point the finger at nature. Human activity is a huge and growing contributor to landslide risk. One of the biggest culprits is deforestation. The roots of trees and other vegetation act like a natural net, binding the soil together and helping to absorb excess rainwater. When we clear-cut forests from steep slopes for logging, agriculture, or development, we remove this protective cover. The soil is left exposed, weak, and much more susceptible to erosion and failure during heavy rains. We are essentially stripping the land of its natural armor, inviting disaster. Our construction habits also play a major role. When we build roads and buildings, we often have to cut into the base of slopes or pile material on top of them. Cutting into the toe of a slope removes its natural support, making the area above it much more likely to slide. Piling extra weight on the top of a slope can also push it beyond its limit. Improperly managed drainage from roads, roofs, and other man-made surfaces can concentrate water into specific areas, causing localized saturation and weakening the ground. In our quest to build and expand, we often unknowingly create the perfect conditions for landslides. The impact of a landslide is immediate, brutal, and far-reaching. The most tragic consequence is, of course, the loss of human life. People are caught in their homes, in their vehicles, or simply walking in the path of the slide. For those living in vulnerable mountain communities, a landslide can strike with little to no warning, especially at night during a heavy storm. The sheer force of tons of moving earth, rock, and debris leaves little chance for survival. The rescue operations that follow are incredibly difficult and dangerous, as the ground can remain unstable for days or weeks, posing a risk to the very people trying to help. Beyond the human toll, the economic devastation is immense. Landslides destroy everything in their path. Homes, schools, hospitals, and businesses are buried or swept away. Critical infrastructure is a primary victim. Roads and railway lines are blocked, cutting off entire communities from supplies and emergency services. Bridges are wiped out, power lines are torn down, and water pipes are severed. The cost of rebuilding this infrastructure is astronomical. Furthermore, agricultural land can be buried under meters of sterile debris, destroying crops and livelihoods for years to come. The economic shockwave can cripple a region's economy long after the dust has settled. The environment also suffers greatly. A landslide is a scar on the landscape that can take centuries to heal. It strips away topsoil and vegetation, leading to long-term erosion problems. The debris that flows into rivers and streams can have a devastating effect on aquatic ecosystems. The sudden influx of sediment can smother fish-spawning grounds, kill aquatic plants by blocking sunlight, and alter the river's course. If a landslide dams a river, it can create a so-called landslide dam lake. These lakes can be very unstable, and if the natural dam fails, it can cause a catastrophic downstream flood, creating a second disaster. The long-term social and psychological impacts on survivors are profound. Entire communities can be displaced, forced to abandon their ancestral homes and land. People lose not just their property, but their entire way of life. The trauma of witnessing such a destructive event and losing loved ones can lead to long-lasting psychological distress. The uncertainty and fear of another slide can hang over a community for generations. Rebuilding is not just about bricks and mortar, it's about rebuilding a sense of security, community, and trust in the very ground beneath your feet. You can't fight what you can't see coming. That's why monitoring and early warning systems are so critical in our battle against landslides. The first step is to identify where the danger lies. Scientists and geologists create landslide hazard maps. They use a combination of tools and data to do this. They study satellite imagery and aerial photographs to look for old landslide scars and unstable landforms. They analyze geological maps to identify weak rock types and fault lines. They also look at slope steepness and rainfall patterns. By layering all this information, they can create a map that highlights areas with high, moderate, and low landslide risk. This is the foundation of all prevention efforts. Once a high-risk area is identified, a more hands-on approach is needed. Experts will go into the field to install monitoring equipment directly on the slope. This is where modern technology really shines. GPS stations can track the movement of the ground with millimeter precision. If the ground starts to move, even slowly, these sensors will detect it. In-ground instruments like extensometers can measure cracks opening up in the soil or rock, while tilt meters measure any change in the angle of the slope. Piezometers are used to monitor the groundwater pressure within the hillside, a key indicator of rising risk. These instruments act as our eyes and ears on the ground. All of this data needs to be collected and analyzed, often in real time. The information from the sensors is transmitted to a central monitoring station. Here, computers and experts watch for any changes that could signal an impending slide. They combine this ground-based data with weather forecasts, especially rainfall predictions. Sophisticated models can then calculate the probability of a landslide occurring based on the current conditions. For example, a model might determine that if a certain amount of rain falls over a specific number of hours, a landslide is highly likely. This allows authorities to be proactive, not just reactive. The final, crucial piece of the puzzle is the early warning system. It's no good having all this information if you can't get it to the people in danger. When the monitoring system indicates a high probability of a slide, an alert is triggered. This can take many forms: automated text messages to residents, public sirens in the community, radio and television broadcasts, and instructions from local emergency services. The goal is to give people enough time to evacuate to a safe location. A well-designed early warning system, from mapping to monitoring to communication, can be the difference between a close call and a major tragedy. While we can't stop every landslide, there are many ways we can reduce the risk and minimize the damage. These strategies fall into a few main categories, starting with engineering solutions. These are physical structures designed to hold back the earth or divert its path. You've probably seen some of them without even realizing it. Retaining walls are commonly built at the base of slopes, especially along roads and railways, to provide support and prevent the ground from slumping. For rockfall-prone areas, steel mesh netting or catch fences are installed on cliffs to stop falling rocks from reaching the area below. It's a direct, brute force approach to controlling a specific threat. For larger-scale problems, more heavy-duty engineering is required. In areas prone to debris flows, strong concrete barriers or check dams can be built across a gully or channel. These structures don't necessarily stop the flow, but they slow it down and trap some of the larger, more destructive boulders, reducing the energy of the flow before it reaches a populated area. Another technique is improving drainage. By installing a system of pipes and channels on a hillside, we can safely collect and divert excess rainwater away from unstable areas, preventing the soil from becoming saturated. This tackles the root cause of many water-induced slides, but we don't always have to rely on concrete and steel. Ecological solutions, which work with nature instead of against it, are incredibly effective. The most important of these is reforestation, or bioengineering. Planting native trees, shrubs, and grasses on bare slopes is one of the best long-term strategies. As we discussed, the root systems create a natural net that binds the soil, making it much more resistant to erosion and failure. This approach is not only effective but also helps restore the local ecosystem, improve biodiversity, and combat climate change. It's a win-win solution that provides a living, self-repairing defense against landslides. Finally, good planning and policy are perhaps the most powerful tools of all. This is about making smart decisions about where and how we live. Using the hazard maps we talked about, local governments can implement zoning laws that restrict or prohibit construction in high-risk areas. It's far safer and cheaper to avoid building in a dangerous place than to try and protect a building once it's there. Building codes can also be strengthened to require specific foundation designs or slope stabilization measures for any construction that does happen in moderate risk zones. Awareness campaigns and public education are also vital, ensuring that residents understand the risks and know what to do in an emergency. History is filled with tragic reminders of the power of landslides. One of the most devastating events in recent memory was the 2014 Oso landslide in Washington State, USA. After a period of intense rainfall, a water-saturated hillside collapsed, sending a massive wall of mud and debris across the Stillaguamish River Valley. The slide traveled at high speed, completely engulfing a rural neighborhood of 49 homes. The disaster claimed 43 lives and left a scar on the landscape and the community that will never fully heal. The event was a stark lesson in the dangers of building on ancient landslide deposits, even ones that have been inactive for thousands of years. Traveling across the globe to the Philippines, The 2006 Ginsaogan landslide tells a similar, horrifying story. Following 10 days of torrential rain that dumped over 200 centimeters of water, a huge chunk of a mountainside let go. A massive rock slide buried the entire village of Ginsaogan in a matter of minutes. Over 1,100 people were killed, including hundreds of children in the local elementary school. Investigations later suggested that a minor earthquake may have been the final trigger. This disaster highlighted the extreme vulnerability of communities in tropical, mountainous regions that are subject to both heavy rainfall and seismic activity. In 1970, a massive earthquake off the coast of Peru triggered one of the deadliest landslides in history. The quake destabilized a huge section of ice and rock on the north face of Mount Huascaran, the country's highest peak. This created an avalanche of ice, mud, and rock that hurtled down the mountain at speeds over 200 miles per hour. It completely obliterated the town of Yungay, burying it under meters of debris and killing an estimated 20,000 people. The only survivors were those who had managed to scramble to the high ground of the local cemetery. This event demonstrated the terrifying synergy between earthquakes and mountains. But there are also stories of successful mitigation. The city of Hong Kong, a dense urban environment built on steep hillsides, was once plagued by deadly landslides. After a series of disasters in the 1970s, the government implemented a world-class slope safety program. They invested heavily in engineering works, stabilized thousands of dangerous slopes, implemented strict building codes, and created a robust public warning system. While the risk can never be eliminated entirely, the program has been incredibly successful, drastically reducing the number of landslide fatalities. It proves that with commitment, investment, and smart science, we can learn to live more safely with this natural hazard. So, what's the ultimate takeaway? It's that we have to adopt a survival mindset when it comes to landslides. This isn't just about reacting when disaster strikes. It's about being constantly aware, prepared, and respectful of the powerful natural forces around us. The first and most important step is awareness. Communities and individuals need to know the risks they face. Does your home or town lie in a landslide-prone area? Learn to read the warning signs. Cracks appearing in the ground, tilted trees, doors, or windows that stick for the first time. During heavy rains, listen for unusual rumbling sounds that might indicate moving debris. Awareness is your first line of defense. Next comes planning. Every family and every community in a high-risk zone should have an emergency plan. Know your evacuation routes. Where is the nearest high ground? Have a go bag ready with essentials like water, food, a first aid kit, and a flashlight. Heed official warnings immediately. When authorities issue an evacuation order, don't hesitate. Leave. Property can be replaced, but lives cannot. This preparedness is not about being paranoid. It's about being practical. It's about taking responsibility for your own safety and the safety of your family. It's the same principle I use in the wild. Hope for the best, but plan for the worst. On a larger scale, we must push for more sustainable practices. This means protecting our forests, not clearing them from steep slopes. It means smarter land use planning that guides development away from the most hazardous areas. It means investing in the science of monitoring and the engineering of protection. We have the knowledge and the technology to make our communities safer. It requires political will, investment, and a long-term commitment. We need to see these measures not as costs, but as essential investments in our collective survival and well-being. It is about building resilience into the very fabric of our society. Ultimately, living with the threat of landslides is about finding a better balance with nature. These events are a natural part of our dynamic planet. They will always happen. But by understanding them, respecting their power, and adapting our behavior, we can significantly reduce their tragic impact. It requires a shift in perspective, from seeing the land as something to be conquered, to seeing it as a powerful partner to be understood and respected. Whether you are deep in the wilderness or in a mountain town, the principles are the same. Stay alert, be prepared, and work with nature, not against it. That is how we survive and thrive.